Chapter 1978, The Abyss of Weak Water. Zhang Yi left the highway of death. The battle between the two lords of the netherworld would never end. But now, he had lost his way. Blocking his path was a vast ocean. It was endless and so dark that not even a reflection could be seen. The road ended abruptly at the edge of the sea. Zhang Yi got off his motorcycle and instantly shot up into the sky to look into the distance. But as far as he could see, there was nothing but sea in all directions. The road behind him had become blurry, just like in a dream, slowly disappearing as he passed by. How did it become like this again? Zhang Yi frowned, wondering if he had fallen into the realm of the Lord of the Netherworld again. Let's go to the other side of the sea. Maybe we can see a new road after crossing the sea. With that, Zhang Yi was about to use his space shuffle ability. However, just at that moment, Yang Xinxin's voice suddenly rang in his ears. "Brother, don't." Zhang Yi stopped in his tracks. "Xinxin, what's wrong? Did you discover something?" Yang Xinxin appeared from the shadows, and Kangda, who was in the shadows, frowned slightly and quickly followed her out. The others didn't understand what was going on, but they all came out to take a closer look at their surroundings. Yang Xinxin stood beside Zhang Yi and looked down at the Black Sea in front of them. The water was pitch black, unable to reflect even a shadow, which was extremely strange. "Brother, I just thought of a legend." "Legend?" Zhang Yi was suddenly curious. Yang Xinxin had studied classical literature and mythology extensively because she had always believed that myths and legends contained the secrets of ancient times. Kangda and the others also looked at Yang Xinxin, waiting for her to explain. Yang Xinxin and Zhang Yi stood at the edge of the sea, at the end of the road, looking down and carefully observing the ocean. Then, she picked a dead leaf from the side of the road and dropped it into the water. The leaf sank immediately without even staying on the surface for a moment. "This is definitely the place," Yang Xinxin suddenly realized, and Zhang Yi found it very magical. "Xinxin, is there anything special about this place?" Yang Xinxin stood up, cautiously backed away to Zhang Yi's side, and held his arm with her small hand. The classic of mountains and seas says, "To the north of Mount Kunlun, there is water whose power cannot overcome a speck of dust, hence it is called weak water." Weak water is described as a barrier surrounding the fairyland of Kunlun, where even a feather cannot float and cannot be crossed, symbolizing the separation between mortals and the realm of the gods. Upon hearing this, Zhou Qi immediately understood. That means that even a feather cannot float, so boats naturally cannot cross. Even light is absorbed? This is basically a sealed area. Hearing the word sealed, everyone understood. We're close to Mammon's sealed land. We're going in the right direction, that's great. For a moment, everyone was nervous and excited. Yang Xinxin said, "This is a sealed land, not a maze." It's not surprising to reach Mammon's sealed land after crossing the territory of the Lord of the Netherworld. In Greek mythology, the Titans were also sealed beneath the abyss. Perhaps the abyss and the deep sea are the same thing. Zhang Yi looked at the dark ocean stretching out before them, which seemed to have no end. This was the abyss of weak water. That means that if we want to find Mammon's sealed land, we just need to cross this abyss of weak water, right? Yang Xinxin said, "But that's exactly what I'm most worried about." She stood beside Zhang Yi, her dark eyes staring across the sea. "Those who fly are not birds, and those who dive are not fish. War is not fought with soldiers, but with the game of nature. If this really is the weak water abyss, then it will be just as the ancient books say. A swift bird cannot cross it, and a feather cannot float on it." Yang Xinxin looked at Zhang Yi. "Brother, it should be impossible to cross here using conventional methods. That's why I stopped you from going straight across." "Oh?" Zhang Yi frowned slightly, "Is that so?" He turned back to look at his companions and said, "Let's give it a try. We've come this far, and we're only one step away from our goal. We definitely can't give up now." Yang Xinxin had already verified that the goose feathers couldn't float, so next they had to verify whether or not swans couldn't cross. Lu Karen volunteered and raised her arm high. "I'll go." She ran to Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin, took out a miniature flying device from her body, and directly controlled it to fly towards the weak water abyss. At first, the flying device flew steadily, but when it jumped above the weak water abyss, it hadn't flown 5 meters before it suddenly lost control, swayed, and fell directly into the black weak water. Seeing this scene, everyone fell silent. Zhang Yi was also a little relieved in his heart. Fortunately, he hadn't rushed to fly over the weak water just now, otherwise he wouldn't know what he would have experienced. Thinking of this, he decided that from now on, before doing anything, he would first activate the ability of his left eye, the second hand of time, to make predictions. We can't use the ship to sail, and we can't fly over this area. How are we supposed to cross the sea? Zhou Qi held her fair chin in her hands and asked this question. Fatty Su looked at Kangda in the crowd. Mr. Kangda, what do you think? Everyone's eyes fell on Kangda. Kangda was acting a little strange today. He was an important figure in the team, and even Zhang Yi respected him as the source of the team's strength. It was rare for him to not express his opinion at such a critical moment. Usually, when faced with a difficult problem, he would be the one to offer important suggestions. Seeing this, Kangda crossed his arms and looked thoughtful. If Odibio were here, it would be great. He should have a way to get through this place. The rest of us don't know anything about here. Kangda looked up at Zhang Yi. Perhaps we have 2 options at the moment. First, we can go back the way we came. The battle between the 2 lords of the Netherworld will never end, so they won't have time to pay attention to us. If we can find Odibio's spirit, we can ask him how to cross the sea. The second option, the coastline of the weak water abyss is very long. Perhaps we can search the area carefully and find some clues. After listening to Kangda's analysis, Zhang Yi's frown deepened. Go back? That wasn't a good idea. It was hard enough to leave that area, and going back would be dangerous. Because of Yang Xinxin's ability, even if they controlled the Crow of Doom, they wouldn't be able to maintain it for very long. Chapter 1979, The Abyss of Weak Water 2. He believed that the Crow of Doom would regain consciousness soon. Furthermore, he might not be able to accurately locate Odibio's undead in the Lord of the Netherworld. Therefore, Zhang Yi felt that the second option was more reliable. Let's do this. There are so many of us, and we are all talented in various fields. Why don't we try to find a way to cross the sea relying on our own abilities first? Out of caution, Zhang Yi said. Kangda nodded. You are the leader. Since you have decided, then everyone will naturally listen to you. In fact, Fatty Su and the others had long been eager to try, and had ideas in mind that they were ready to implement. Although everyone looked up to Zhang Yi as their leader, everyone had their own ideas and desires to prove themselves. If they could find a way to cross the sea at this moment, they would definitely be able to raise their status in the eyes of the team. So everyone immediately set to work. Let me go first. Now is the time to show off my years of hard training. Fatty Su rolled up his sleeves and walked forward with a confident smile on his face. Zhang Yi grabbed his sleeve and looked at him warily. What are you doing? Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Fatty Su paused for a moment. Boss, I'm trying to find a way to cross the sea. Why are you looking at me with such a strange expression? Don't look at me like that, it's as if you're looking at a bag of toxic waste. Zhang Yi sighed and leaned close to his ear, speaking in a voice that only the 2 of them could hear. Nothing, it's just that you mentioned years of hard training, which inevitably reminds me of how you mutated back then. I'm just a little worried. Fatty Su was struck as if by lightning. He stared wide-eyed and pointed at Zhang Yi with his mouth wide open. Boss, don't be so mean. No matter what, I am Su Chunlei, a big shot. I'm not going to show off my ancestral skills in front of so many people. Pfft. Originally, no one knew what the 2 were talking about, but Fatty Su got so excited that he shouted it out, and now everyone could hear. Zhang Yi covered his face in exasperation. I just wanted to remind you to think carefully before you act. Don't embarrass yourself in public, after all, your girlfriend is watching. You're so direct. Liang Yang had been following the crowd, staying by Yang Xinxin's side, under her command and supervision. Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin had planned for her to follow them. However, Liang Yang did not show any disgust at Fatty Sue's clumsiness. Instead, she smiled fondly, as if she were looking at a cute child. Okay. Zhang Yi vaguely remembered a legend. What ordinary people saw as a fat nerd was, in the eyes of a special group of people, a pure little loli with a ponytail, a sailor uniform, and white stockings. Sure enough, people's prejudices were like a mountain. Probably the more Fatty Sue acted like a fool, the more Liang Yang liked him. Shift. This world was really crazy. Zhang Yi waved his hand helplessly. Okay, you go ahead. Fatty Sue's face turned red, then green, then white, and he walked to the shore with a puffed-up face. He bent down and placed his right hand on the surface of the water. Then he took a deep breath. Eternal freezer. A blue cold air burst from his body, released from the palm of his hand, and spread directly over the surface of the water. Zhang Yi watched quietly from the side, not expecting much. But soon, everyone's eyes showed an incredulous expression. The dark, weak water was actually frozen. Large patches of black ice appeared and quickly spread from the shore toward the front. Before long, a large ice layer covering hundreds of square meters had formed. This is something. Zhang Yi couldn't help but say. Uncle Yu nodded with satisfaction. Under my supervision, little Sue has never slacked off in the past few years. Especially after he received the spirit of sacrifice from you. Zhang Yi, don't look down on Chunlei with your old eyes. He's still working very hard. Oh? Really? Zhang Yi looked at Fatty Sue's determined gaze and slowly nodded. It wasn't a waste of resources to train you. Before Epsilon, Fatty Sue's talent wasn't particularly outstanding. At most, he was on the same level as by Li Changqing, Xiao Honglian, and the others. The reason Zhang Yi invested so many resources in him was because his ability attribute was ice and snow, which was a unique ability. Moreover, once he entered the realm of Epsilon, his abilities would be fully developed. Perhaps Epsilon was unremarkable before, but after passing through that door, he would undergo a transformation. Under the expectant gaze of everyone, Fatty Sue continuously used his abilities to expand the area of the ice. After a few minutes, Zhang Yi placed his hand on Fatty Sue's shoulder. Okay, take a break. It's okay, boss. I'm not tired. I can keep working. Fatty Sue turned his head and looked at Zhang Yi with an expression that said, work makes me happy. Hey! Zhang Yi sighed, stop. At this rate, I'll have to wait until the year of the monkey and the month of the horse to cross the sea. Fatty Sue paused for a moment and looked up at the weak water abyss. He had already expanded the ice surface by nearly a kilometer. However, compared to the vast and endless sea, this speed was indeed too slow. You can't possibly expect to freeze the entire sea, can you? We can all see how hard you're working. Take a break, Zhang Yi said comfortingly. Zhou Ker also smiled gently and said, at least your method is working to some extent. That's already very good. Fatty Sue sat down on the ground, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and tried to save face. What if we need a piece of ice just then? My skills will come in handy. Liang Yang walked over and gently helped him up. You've done great. She smiled, and Fatty Sue suddenly felt that his efforts over the past half hour had indeed been effective. Zhang Yi couldn't help but laugh, but he didn't tell him how funny he looked when he bent over to freeze the seawater. Never mind, let's give him some face. Maybe Fatty Sue still thinks he looks like a commander. Lu Karen walked to the seashore and scooped up a cup of weak water with a beaker. She brought the beaker to the shore, and the dark water was opaque. She placed her hands on the sides of the beaker and activated her ability, transformation from nothing. Her ability could disintegrate and analyze all matter in the world and explore its constituent elements. Believe in science. This was Lu Karen's belief. As long as it was matter, she could analyze its essence and come up with a corresponding way to break it down. A golden light appeared in the palm of her hand, seeping into the weak water and beginning to analyze it.